I don't normally read science fiction. I want to be a sci-fi fan, but whenever I try to read it, I don't like it. Outside of Orson Scott Card's books that began with the Ender's Game book, I haven't found sci-fi that I've really enjoyed. And I've tried a decent number of books looking for some science fiction that I like, and I really can't find much. But I do really enjoy fantasy. At the same time, I'm not a big fan of Christian fantasy. So the idea of Christian science fiction, thanks, but no thanks. And then when I saw Lucas Kitchen came out with a sci-fi book, my first response was, I was kind of sad. I like Lucas, I like his book, so I felt like I needed to read it, but I wasn't looking forward to it because I don't like science fiction. I'm assuming Christian science fiction will be even worse, and that reading this will probably be more like a homework assignment than the enjoyment of reading a fiction book. So when I started reading Missionary to Mars, it began at a very slow pace, reading a couple of pages a day like it was a homework assignment. But as the book went along, I read more and more pages each night until I realized I actually like this. And I'm gonna need to review it and figure out how to review it without giving the story away. Because I really enjoyed it, but I don't want to ruin it for you. Fiction reviews aren't my thing, but I'm gonna give it a try with this book that greatly surpassed my expectations. Missionary to Mars. And it's not about being a missionary to aliens. Let me tell you what this book is really about. Welcome to Rev Reads. If you want to discover more books that are often overlooked or shareable books to pass on to a friend, especially one who might not know Jesus Christ, please subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with my most current reviews. And also like and share this video with others on social media to help them learn what it means to be a missionary to Mars. Missionary to Mars. Again, this book is not about being a missionary to Martians who are getting ready to invade the Earth. But the book is set hundreds of years into the future, when mankind has colonized the solar system and settled upon various planets, including Mars. In this future time, Christianity is also illegal. It's illegal to the point where if anyone is caught in a Christian gathering, they will be instantly executed, and now Christianity has been driven near to the point of extinction. Our story's protagonist, Eustice, is part of what he believes may be the final Christian gathering in all of the solar system, with Eustice owning what may be the last Bible in all of the solar system. And the book begins with a rather shocking attack that leaves Eustice as maybe the last Christian living in the solar system. And now he is also public enemy number one. So he flees Earth, searching both to escape his pursuer, who wants to end his life, who is also a really excellent villain in this book, I might add, and he's also hoping to share the gospel across the solar system. The title Missionary to Mars comes from Eustace's desire to share the gospel on Mars, and then turn Mars into a central location from which the gospel can be spread from planet to planet. Now, thanks to God's grace, Eustace becomes a stowaway on a spaceship that is crewed by a small band of smugglers. The rest of the book will cover Eustace's evangelistic efforts, first to his new crew and then to the moon where they are marooned. And it's not Earth's moon, by the way. Now, when I say the rest of the book is Eustace's evangelistic efforts, I don't want in any way to mean that the rest of the book is filled with sermons and philosophical debates on the nature of the gospel. Far from it. The rest of this book is filled with dangerous threats, dozens of comedic moments, and even a little romance sprinkled in along the way. Now, for the most part, Eustace's evangelistic efforts drive the plot forward, as the reader is left thinking, again and again, why, Eustace? Why share Christ like that? You are the world's worst missionary, the world's worst evangelist. And for me, the moment in the book that really made the entire book a success was that moment when one of the other characters confronts Eustace with that exact complaint. He is terrible at sharing his faith. No wonder he's the last one. He's brave, he's bold, but he can be really stupid with people for someone who is excellent with technology. And what this allows in this book is this wonderful journey of growth by our main character. And it also provides an excellent lesson for those who share Christ but feel like they are terrible at it, without it being preachy or demeaning toward you. In fact, the way Lucas structured the growth of all the characters, it felt natural, organic, and never came across like I was reading a Christian B movie that had been turned into a book and was filled with this forced Christianity and morality that was just trying to make a point in odd times during the story. Although the one character that annoyed me the most was Rudwick. Rudwick is a one-armed space pirate whose other arm was robotic. He's a giant of a man. He had pet cats, including one that was genetically modified to act like a house cat but be the size of a jungle cat. And he spoke like a pirate in the worst and most corny ways. And I was initially thinking, yeah, Lucas, you made a pretty bad mistake on that character. Rudwick should have been cut out from this book and replaced with someone else. But in the end, Rudwick gets redeemed with one of the most poignant moments in the book. He gives this brief speech, even uses his terrible pirate slang, and I loved that speech. And I found myself looking back and being like, Rudwick's one of the best parts of the book, and I hope there's a second book, and he still gets to be a main part of it. I think he's one of those characters that would be an awful main character, but is great in the role that he plays. So who is Missionary to Mars for? I think this book is for someone who enjoys science fiction or fantasy books already. So if you know someone who likes Orson Scott Card, Brandon Sanderson, J.K. Rowling, Star Wars novels, this would be ideal for that person. It could actually be a great long-form gospel tract to an unbeliever who loves science fiction books but would never read a 3-page tract or have a 3-page conversation on the gospel. As far as an age range to recommend for those who would read this book, I do think this book was written for adults because there are some rather heartbreaking deaths that are crucial to moving the plot forward, and the characters are adults, and they act like adults with all the warts and flaws you would expect. This isn't a book that is geared toward children. I say that, but I will still encourage my 11-year-old son to read it. He's probably going to read Missionary to Mars once he's finished with the Reckoners trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. And if you're encouraging someone in that age range to read this book, you need to know that they need to be able to handle death and even the murder of a child at one point in the book. I've had parents in the past ask me about fiction books that I can recommend for teen boys to read, and this is a book that will now sit comfortably in those books that I recommend for them. I would personally love to hear a review of this book by a woman, but one of the things about sci-fi is that well-written science fiction books that are intended for men and boys often end up appealing to all audiences, male and female alike, and I think the same will be the case for Missionary to Mars. I still say the best recommendation I can give for this book is the simple fact that I started reading a couple of pages a day and ended up reading more and more pages each day the closer I came to the end. While this book isn't for everyone, if you don't like science fiction, fantasy, or adventure books, there's a good chance you probably won't get this book either. But for those who do, give it a chance. I think you're bound to enjoy the journey of a missionary to Mars and even be inspired along the way to be bold in how you share Christ, but to do so with more wisdom than our main character, Eustice. Grace Zone is the best place to view Rev Reads book reviews. I'd encourage you to download the free Grace Zone app on the Android Play Store or the Apple App Store so that you can be the first to watch Rev Reads reviews when they come on the app and find other wonderful YouTube channels, podcasts, and blogs as well.